So I'm Michael, and I run this thing, which is actually me, called Men at Work. People say, how many people in your organisation? I go, why did I call it organisation? It's just me, it's embarrassing. It's in my email address, Men at Work organisation. I'm me and I'm disorganised. But anyway, I was in teaching for 16 years in the Midlands, from 2004 to 2021. That's when I went full-time doing this work, and I train teachers, youth workers, social workers, anybody whose work is with boys and young men. So that's a lot of people. It could be anybody. Really, really broad range of people. And I've been doing that full-time, like I say, for 4 years. Basically as a result, I suppose, of what I started to see in schools coming through the door and arriving on our desks in terms of safeguarding and pastoral interventions, and you'll never guess what they've done. And I've heard about these new things called dick pics, etc. You know, like, because 2004 was pretty much what the Nokia playing Snake, wasn't it? 2021, we're on the verge of being where we are now. So it's a total seismic shift of what we thought was the lives of our children that we were working with. Does that kind of resonate? You know, it's that kind of a fascinating 20-year patch there. So I was involved in some ways about planning some interventions, but they were always after the fact. Something had gone wrong, there'd been issues, we need to do this, we're seeing a lot of that, we need to do something. But it just felt like we could be doing that forever, and one could. And I started to, I was also became responsible in some ways for booking speakers to come into schools, PSHE, RSE, citizenship. And that opened my eyes to the wild west of all the madness that's out there, and the quality of it, and the fact that nobody's checking the quality of it, whether it's true or not true or good or not. I mean, it's just, schools are in a bind, they have to do X. They're not given any resources or training to do X, so they feel the burden of X and go Googling. Who can come in to talk to us about this? Well, we can, but we're maniacs. That's fine. That's all right. You know, I'm boiling it down to the most essential parts here. Of course, not be quite, you know, phrases it like that, but an under pressure customer is a vulnerable customer, and it's obvious, isn't it? It's obvious. And, you know, I don't want to be derailed by describing the Wild West ecosystem of external providers in schools, but it is really important and impactful in terms of sex education, in terms of pornification of sex education, and in terms of quack ideology around gender, but much more broadly as well. Anyway, so I set up talking groups with boys. They were mainly like year 9, 10 and 11, so that's 14, 15, 16, in a group of schools, because I worked for 8 schools collectively. I was employed by them all. And over the years, we'd run programs, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, drop-in centre, Wednesday afternoon, don't fancy maths. You know, it was all kinds of reasons for it happening. But I did about 6 or 7 years of that, and I was meeting people from organisations like local domestic abuse refuges who would come in and do talks. I was kind of learning about that. And it was a good job anyway, because I found lots of people, but I also started to see a lot of really big gaps and some really big question marks around issues that were really important and needed quality stuff. So I went online and I was looking for resources for working with boys, and there wasn't a fat lot, and there isn't much any even now, years later. You get the TED Talks, and they're all these kinds of performative stuff. Everybody, you could map it out, the rise and fall, the cadence, the pregnant pause of this, all that stuff. I don't really buy into it. And they were all American. I didn't find anything local that felt like us here in this interesting country and these islands. So we started writing stuff, totally making it up as went along, but really enjoying the work. And the gist of it was to try and find out what was going on in the lives of boys, what was happening. Because I'm 57 now, so even 10 years ago I was a lot older than they were. And just to move beyond that kind of, oh well, they're all doing that now these days, you know, that kind of, it's a shocker and we have to tell them off and all that sort of stuff. Just like, that's not going to get us anywhere. So how do we kind of bridge that gap somehow and learn about them by being actively curious? That was the gist. So the programme's called 12 Dialogues. What I thought I'd do is kind of deliver what I would train to teachers and youth workers and social workers who come to it, but I'll add a bit of meta context, if that makes sense. See how it goes anyway. I've trained 3,000 odd professionals in the last 4 years. State sector, public sector, state sector, private sector. It's because public schools comes to public schools, it's fucked short, isn't it? State sector, private sector, mental health workers, school nurses, police, all sorts of everybody, mostly teachers, many in safeguarding, and increasingly primary school. Are coming saying, we've got issues, we need to feel more confident. And a lot of it is about feeling confident. So I've devised a programme for them, basically. I'm going to try and sell it to you. I'm just going to explain what a model of work looks like. Because it may be that none of you have ever witnessed or are aware of a kind of a programme that is delivered anyway. Well, it might be the case, I don't know. So I would normally ask a group to introduce themselves and say, why have you come, what do you want to do, what do you hope to get out of today? I explain, is there a way that anybody might be able to get these slides at the end? Yeah. Tomorrow, okay, great, okay, fine. So I explain the context. I'm going to go for the easier bits. I like saying, well, right folks, what brings us here? Why are we here? What's it all about? Well, I kind of look at the external, the headlines, the political climate, what the press is saying, what our professional organisations might be putting on their agenda, you know, like the push, what's pushing us into the room to talk about boys and young men, because there must be a reason. And there's all kinds of stuff, isn't there? There's professional, personal experience, high profile dramas. Anybody care to hazard a guess what that might be? It's interesting. The spike in emails that come after Andrew Tate got arrested and after adolescence, it's as if nobody knew until it's put on their fucking plate. Pardon my French. It's like, yeah, it's been going on forever. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But somehow it's been endorsed by its popularity. It's a strange one. And I think it has its strengths. I think it has a lot of weaknesses as well as a drama. And it's just a drama. I do ask, I was at a social services, I've done some big gigs recently. I was at the Special Schools Conference recently, the National Special, 200 people, head teachers, safeguarding leads in Bristol. I asked the group, has anybody not watched it? There were 6 out of 200. So you've got reach, and it's making a conversation happen. It's flawed, but it's there. And I was with 240 youth workers, youth services up in Cheshire, and 3 people out of 240 hadn't seen it, so it's massive. So it becomes something that is useful to talk about, but not take lessons from. But it means that as a contribution to, we need to be talking with our lads, right? And everything we heard from the speakers this morning is exactly that too. But it's not just that. For most people who are in teaching and youth work, etc., they want to do it. They want to be part of safeguarding. They want to discharge their obligations well. They want to do the right thing. They want the kids to self-actualise and be safe and have good lives. But those 2 things are really powerful. So what I'm trying to do when I'm training people is acknowledge what is in our heads and move slowly together so it feels that we can be confident in doing it. Because the number one thing that people say is, I just don't have the confidence. I don't want to make it worse. I don't want to piss them off. I don't want them to hate me. I don't want my views to suddenly be shouted. You know, I want to do it right. And that often can be quite paralysing. Because if you set off doing something that's potentially provocative, I suppose is a word, without fundamentally really believing why you do it, it will go wrong. That's my belief. And also, we will come across as scared. And that is not a great dynamic in the group. So it's how can the professionals who have a lot of space and time with the boys and young men all across the country and all kinds of networks, how can they feel most confident in having really good, meaningful conversations with them? That's it, bottom line. So, we need to talk with our boys and young men. Yeah, brilliant, that's handy, isn't it? We've got to end world poverty, etc. How do we do it? When do we start? Who do we do it with? Does it matter who does it? In a professional context. There is the abstract in which we are all political and we're all actors and we've all got relationships. I'm talking about the professional sphere through which the vast majority of boys and young men pass for many years in their formative kind of trajectory. Who should do it? Which boys? Is this a naughty boy programme? Well, if we get approached like that, it's a disaster. It's better not to do it. Because if we associate having conversations about sex, about relationships, about empathy, etc., with a punitive context, it's completely hopeless, it's doomed. That conversation becomes booby-trapped then, so it can't be there. And also, we only know what we know, so to focus on groups of boys who've just done something that we're aware of is being intentionally ignorant of the rest, who we're all being subjected to the same kind of messaging. So, we see stuff, we, youth workers, teachers, social workers, safeguarding, I mean, we're aware of what's going on, but it's less clear about how to do something constructive in a kind of organised way, in a strategic way, in an intentional way. So it's not just, oh my God, let's get the lads in and find out what they've done and why they've done it. To move beyond that and to move around it, because we always need that targeted intervention. How can we strategise? So I'm trying to speak the language of the people who are working with the boys and say, yeah, we are in this situation, we know we need to, but what and how can we not get it wrong? So, let's imagine a little bit of role play. Are we seeing, we can answer it in the first person, doesn't even have to be theoretical. Are we seeing and hearing things in our settings, our lives, our networks, that suggest a need for specific intentional work with boys and young men? Let's assume that the reason that you're in this room is that we're damn clear about it, in all kinds of ways and manners, all kinds. But some people come to the work through the mental health route, others through the youth justice route. There's all kinds of reasons, but it all overlaps. So it's a chance for people to come together around the notion of, yes, they've got issues, but we've got a challenge. How do we make this work? This one is I find it a really interesting question, and I would be fascinated if we could do it in real time. If we were to go out onto the main street in Brighton and say, good news, we are going to embark on a strategic programme of interventions with all boys and young men around their collective understanding of the subjective experience via codes of masculinity of being a man. Would we be embraced or spat at, or both, or a bit of everything depending on who we spoke to?
Probably ignored.
Or ignored. That's the real killer, isn't it? I could deal with everything apart from being ignored. Someone, what the fuck? You know, what you want about? That's a bit wordy, or some would be aggressive, yeah? Why? Because I think understanding why that is really, really important. Why would some people kick off?
There's a large, there's a large proportion of people in certain sectors and groups that will be, but why are you worrying about the girls?
Right.
The problem is that the girls were like oppressed.
Right.
Stuff the boys.
That's one truth. That's one plate spinning. So some people would say, oh, is this more stuff for boys? Is it more free trips? Are you going to take them to the seaside? More of that, is it? That kind of thing. Right, that's the truth. What other responses might there be?
I think there might also be the like fixing it, like there's something wrong with the boys kind of thing, you know, like, they're fine, like just that kind of like if you have an intervention, it's kind of always think there's something wrong with them. Or,
right. So why do you hate our boys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of them are lovely. Mine are lovely. All the lads I work at school, the lads are lovely. They're like princes, honestly. Yeah. So you get the not my Nigel thing. I don't know if I'm quoting someone. If I am, I'm paying copyright. Not my Nigel. You know, that sort of stuff. That's another set of responses. What other responses could there be? Because they're enough to get schools picketed by parents, I can assure you, in the real world. Yeah, definitely. Private and state sector. Facebook groups, WhatsApp, letters to MPs.
I think you have an agenda.
Right, yeah. What's all this about then?
What's behind it?
Yeah, yeah. Is this the woke bullshit of which we hear so much? Yeah. What next? Do you want them to wear dresses, etc.?
Are you telling me I'm a bad parent?
Yeah. What are you saying about me? You say I don't like to bring up my own son. Who the hell are you to say that to me? Yeah.
Could it also be denial in that, because there's a part of you that knows that this needs to be done, but addressing it means that you have to address your own failures, and it's much easier just when you're in the grip of addiction yourself, or you can see it in others, to deny the problem. So that's quite wordy. But
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's too big, it's too much. Let's just kind of park it and deal with the absolutely most egregious examples of it, as if they were unpredictable aberrations rather than predictable outcomes of structural situations. That fear is known by schools. They know that, they know the potential, and that often is a deadening hand. Also, as we will see, sometimes they go about it in entirely the wrong way. And because they haven't thought about the reception of it, and they dismiss opposition as, well, they're just a bunch of Nazis, or they're just religious maniacs, or, well, you know what they like, he's been putting flags up all weekend. Dismissing them as utterly undeserving of any kind of opinion, which feeds into the gulf of understanding and lacks of empathy. Interesting. That question, sometimes people just sit and scratch their head because they haven't ever thought about why anybody would possibly be against doing work about it, because it's so blindingly obvious you need to do it. Sorry, I keep moving off camera. Apologies.
It's okay.
Apologies to the viewer. But that's utterly, it's fundamental. Why would some people not want this to happen? Because that makes us have to be clearer and clearer and clearer about it, I think.
Another thing I was also just thinking, because a lot of the stuff that you do is quite therapeutic. It makes me think of the work that I do and how I do it. But sometimes also stuff might come out that they don't want people to know about. What it's like at home, or like stuff that might have happened.
Yeah.
And, because that happens in therapy quite a lot. When kids go to school counselling, they'll be like, well, my parents don't really want me to talk about it. I can't talk about this because then the school might do something, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And who are you going to tell? You're going to tell social workers? You're going to tell the police? And then all those familial experiences of state apparatuses, which may be negative as well, or they just don't want their sons to disclose abuse, either towards the child or to the mother or whoever it might be. So, or addiction issues in the house. So it's kind of, snooping. It's a snooping agenda. What is their agenda? What you're trying to fix and what you're saying about me as a parent is an awful lot. And that's without the political kind of, with the capital P side of it. Right. So because of that reality, there's a pressure to do something, but a minefield of how to do it, and loads of ways it can go wrong, I feel, and experience shows this. It's like getting into the mindset of confidence to do it. And sometimes it might seem supremely basic, but I think that's okay. So I start off basically saying, right, how old are these lads? Anybody got any idea? I mean, I don't know them, so you can just guess. I don't know.
6 months.
6 months.
6 months. You know, might have a bit of argy-bargy going, some people might say, oh, well, they seem to have passed these milestones. Well, it's more like 12 to 14 on a normal trajectory, so it's not bad anyway. Whoever's in the room, you have a different conversation. Right, did those boys ask to be in that photograph? Did they ask to be born? Did any of us ask to be born? Of course not, we're just here, we started to become conscious. Right, but this guy here on the left, he's listening to something that seems to be making him happy, he seems he's covered in porridge, it's all good. Boys and girls are born into a world with deep-rooted, insistent social and cultural values and beliefs around how they should act. Is that true? Is it true in China? Is it true in New York? Is it true in Blackpool? Is it true in Brighton? Doesn't matter. Is it true middle class, upper class? It's true for everybody, isn't it? It just looks slightly different. That truth looks slightly different. So it's about establishing commonality. We are here in this world, and we have to do what we have to do in a way that is safe and sustainable and allows us to thrive. Right. And this fact has a powerful formative influence on us. Is that true as well? I am taking so basic. But this is hundreds and thousands of people who might, for the very, very first time in their life, be engaging in a programmatic discussion of this sort of work. I'm not talking, I do talk to academics, but I'm not talking at that level. I'm saying we are in a really difficult situation and we want to do something good. Let's walk together to do this and know why. I know why. I know that I'm not embarking on some harebrained scheme that is going to get me in the local papers. It's rooted in basic safeguarding. And we can think about cultural differences. There are very few schools in England, there are some, that are what you might describe as monocultural, monoethnic. And even those, every family has its own culture and it's got its own beliefs and values, etc. So we can talk about, well, I've got 15 languages in my school and my youth service, 40 different ethnicities, etc. Brilliant. That allows us to talk about this more. It doesn't shut it down. Just like doing the DV perpetrator work, it's a bonus that there are other cultures, because you can't just hide behind and within your own culture as a reason for you doing that sort of behaviour. And of course, while all that's happening to lads, in a parallel world, it's happening to girls too. They are being trained how to be girls. Boys are being trained how to be boys. And that will be explicit or implicit. You know, your religion says this, your dad says this. That's not what us Jacksons do. It comes across in all sorts of ways, but also like watching porn. It's training boys to have sex, how to have sex, and how to talk, and which sex acts to do. It's just people being trained constantly. So, it's acknowledging that boys, like girls, entered a world full of ideas that they didn't create. They're not the author of that world. But boys are differently invited to continue that world. Does that make sense? The role, the subjectivity, the invite, it's got different stuff. It's a different invite to be this, be that, don't be that. That's for them, they do that. And it would take no great leap of the imagination to say that lands with individuals differently. And is welcome in the individual psyche to different extents, or utterly unwelcome to different extents. But everybody who's got a job, which is working with kids, is involved in safeguarding. Everybody, all of them. Cleaners. It doesn't matter that they're not the head of safeguarding, everybody's got that. So this allows anybody who wants to be part of this work to see it through safeguarding, but not as some kind of weird ideological tack on. This is what they should be doing every day. Did anybody hear about that Dublin University experiment quite recently about the phones? I've probably not got the details right, but it's roughly this. They did an experiment to put 10 brand new smartphones online. They registered them in the names of boys, teenage boys, 16 to 17 I think. And they were like research sociologists or something. 5 of them, or half of the group, Googled Andrew Tate. The other half didn't Google anything. But within 23 minutes, they got the same content that the first group had looked for. On the basis of the only connection they had, they think they were friends on Facebook or something. That's all there was. There was no interaction, they were just friends or followers of each other. So the algorithm just made the assumption, well, if half of a group wants X, the other half very probably was like X too. And if they don't, well, nothing lost, because it doesn't cost us any money to give them X. So it's not so much necessarily what boys are looking for, although of course that is a truth, it's what he's looking for boys. What is this hungry machine that wants and needs boys to enact itself to survive? It needs a host. Would we say that that's true? Being a boy or a young man, or a girl or a young woman in 2025 comes with its challenges. Does that seem reasonable? Does it matter if I'm talking to a group of Sikh, Hindu, Catholic, anybody? Is that different? What about parents who might vote Reform or Labour or Green or Workers' Revolutionary Party? Is that not still true there? So it's a way of perhaps community building, because we're speaking to the fundamentals here, rather than lobbing something in, wrapped up in jargon, that feeds suspicion. Some challenges for young men and young women are the same. If an asteroid is coming, we're all going to die. Apart from a few billionaires who are going to die next week. Anyway, in New Zealand. But beyond total cataclysm, outcomes are, I'm going to say, intersectional, just for a laugh. They are. They're different for even COVID. I mean, as Ruth knows, I quite enjoyed COVID. We were in the garden a lot, weren't we? The garden, that means I didn't experience it the same way somebody who was cooped up in a little flat. An intersection, it was a diverse experience of a common event. So you can't say, oh, we all had a bad time in COVID, because some people didn't. Recognising the specific, particular challenges faced by boys and girls helps us deal with them. Is that not basic common sense? Right, this is the doctor's waiting room. I've got an arrow in my back. Can I have 3 volunteers who have an ailment? I think somebody's got narcolepsy. Go on, off you got, John.
Head stuck in a saucepan.
Gee, you don't get that anymore. It's beauty, isn't it, as well? It's a shame. I might have got an arrow in my back, fair enough. Anybody else, Chris?
I've got flu.
You've got flu. Right, terrific. One more?
Terrible hemorrhoids.
Right, I'll take your word for it. Right, but it's okay, because the doctor, he or she, okay, got 2 of them, comes in, gives us all a tablet, gives me a tablet, gives you a tablet, gives you a tablet, gives you a tablet. The doctor has seen the sick people, true or false? There's been an interaction between the medical profession and people who are ill, is that true? Tick, tick. Tweet about it, put it in your newsletter, we've done it. We've done the thing that we need to do. How do we feel about it though, fellow sick people?
Cheated.
Yeah, cheated. Because what has the doctor not done? Or what has the doctor done?
Giving you the pill.
Giving us a pill. It might even work for piles. It ain't going to stop blood flow. It's probably not going to stop flu. It could be that, I'll get that pan off that head.
It's a sort of contempt for the patient.
Right.
Because if there's no engagement and they're not worth it.
Great. Absolutely. And we might even talk amongst ourselves, going, this guy or this woman are a joker. What is this? Are they actually trained? This is awful. And we feel like we're part of a system and we've been diminished and we don't matter. And we're not going to get better. Majority. So are we saying, therefore, that to support people with a particular set of needs, we have to know stuff about them that is rooted in fact? So talking to young people, generically, although I understand it's cheaper and easier when you're dealing with large industrial units and numbers, I get that, about county lines, I'm all familiar with county lines. I don't know, Renee, in Australia, I don't know if you have, it's a capillary version of gang life. So you're not exactly necessarily in a gang, but you're affiliated to the actions of the gang by moving drugs or money or weapon from place to place, often in areas which look really nice, suburban areas. Not only, of course, but it's a kind of, it's like a capillary diluted form of gang life, but very closely involved in it too as well. So, is it fair to say that 2 14-year-old kids, one male, one female in Brighton, are both vulnerable to recruitment into that kind of exploitation? Is that a reasonable statement? Or in Oldham or in Bristol or wherever we are? Sorry, but keep moving. Forget that. Anyway, this is just building confidence with people who work with boys and young men, who have been trained in ways to deny sex difference in some ways, or who feel awkward doing it for a variety of reasons. They don't want to be seen to be picking on somebody. They don't want to be seen to be judging anybody. We don't need to worry about any of that, because here's Liam and here's Shelley, and they're both 14. They both live in places where they're potentially vulnerable to recruitment into something. I'm the recruiter and the exploiter. What am I going to say to Liam? How am I going to make him walk with me in our activity? Well, first off, am I going to say that address them both simultaneously in the same language? Or am I going to speak to Liam in a language that I know he will want to be spoken in? What would I be saying to Liam, a 14-year-old boy? What would I recognise him that he would want me to recognise in him? What would make him feel good? What man buttons would I press? You're not like the others. You're not a pussy. It's time to step up. You could be made. You should have 500 quid in your pocket. Haven't you got? But you got nothing. That can all change this time next week. Money, man, money. Massively important notion, because what is money? Money is power. So I'll be talking to him about money. I should be talking about his status in the eyes of others and being elevated above other men. I'd be speaking to him in the secret language that is making Liam have a warm glow like the old Ready Break advert. I've been seen. I've got purpose. I've got status. I exist. The conversation with Shelley, is it exactly the same? You need 2 separate conversations. You just do. And most people, I was with a lot of social workers the other day, and no doubt we would fall out, as any room would, on some political issues, there's no doubt, particularly around notions about sex and gender and things like that. But if you've walked through from A to B to C to D to E, the onus is on them to be irrational. By suddenly going, that's all true, but I'm now going to stop saying it's true. It's an acknowledgement of basic reality. Sex matters, 100% it matters. And if we believe it doesn't, we can't really support either girls or boys. It might be of interest, I don't know. I've had 4 conversations about that out of 3,200 people training. It is not an issue in most cases. If your job is looking after the day-to-day benefit and well-being of boys and young men, it's weird how little that world of discourse shows itself. It's almost never mentioned. It's really strange. I get the odd stuff now and then, but it's rooted in safeguarding. It's rooted in scientific reality. It's rooted in the fact that we know, even if Liam and Shelley are passed through into gang life, they're going to do different work. Well, she's going to be sexually exploited. She might provide alibis or recruit other girls. That's different work to him. He's fighting, he's extracting money, he's carrying weapons. It's different work. It's based on sex. Just is. Right. So I'm holding the hands, if you like, of people who generally want what's best for the kids, walking them through potentially conflicting territory of why are we doing different work with boys than we are with girls? Because it makes sense, because it's necessary. Because if Liam and Shelley both logged on to their smartphones, they get different algorithms. It's just totally different input. failing to acknowledge that is failing to acquit ourselves in safeguarding. So recognising specific vulnerability, I would suggest, is actually smart safeguarding, it's dynamic safeguarding, rather than picking on. But we might come across as picking on because of the language you use. You might just frame it badly. Or it could have been an email to all parents the day after adolescence came out. And parents are thinking, oh God, they're just being dragged along by, you know, the headlines and all that kind of stuff. So how do we avoid negative framing? What don't we want to do? Let's assume that we all worked for a youth service or something, and we thought, you know, we got all these issues with our lads, they're getting involved in some stuff, and it's really awful, you wouldn't believe what stuff they're saying, it's just really worrying. And we wanted to embark on a programme of really good conversations with them, to get to the heart of it and to let them to say their thoughts and to road test them for truth and safety and all that kind of stuff. What would we not want to do? How would we not want to come across?
Well, interrogating them.
Yeah, for sure.
Making assumptions.
Right? Yeah. Because the mission is be actively curious about their life. To allow them to develop the capacity of critical reflection. To carry forward in life, independently and autonomously. So we can't create any kind of dependence or we're not telling them off, that's not what it is. It's being curious. Generally speaking, this is the kind of stuff that people come up with over the years and around the country. We don't want to label or prejudge, antagonise, trivialise, don't want to shut down thinking. There are some schools who actually banned the mention of Andrew Tate. I mean, can you imagine how fantastical, what kind of weird, kind of almost sweet cartoon world you must live in and think that that's possible? You know, don't say Voldemort, you know. All these intertextual references going on, yeah. But don't be preaching, don't want to dictate, we don't want to shame. I mean, shame as a didactic tool is a disaster, it's a non-starter. And we've got, you know, old school ideas. You know where that's going to lead, you're going to end up in prison. You're going to idiot, you boy, put that down, your penis is not a toy, etc. That was my sex ed at school from Father Burke. We all got it, we knew it was coming. Walking up and down, banging on the desk, your penis is not a toy, that was it. You know, flatly contradicting our lived experience, of course. So it gives us something to say if we meet up with somebody you went to school with years later. But that fix-it approach as well. But this is an interesting one. We don't want to inflame alienate parents or carers, because if an organisation gets a bee in its bonnet and it goes on a training course and it's got some badges and lanyards and that, it feels righteous. And righteousness is a really dangerous sensation, because there's probably nothing else like it in the world. I am unimpeachably, absolutely right. And if you don't get that, that's your problem. Where does that lead? I mean, you know, true, literal horror, isn't it? Literal horror. And I think social media does feed into it, even at the adult level, between parents and teachers to some extent, but also youth work, and because it's almost like camps, conflict in camps. So how do we move beyond that? And how do we bring as many people along together in an exploration of how do we make safeguarding really make sense for these young men and boys? Because while we're talking about them, we are inevitably, inextricably talking about women and girls, aren't we? What was it? A mini fair play, I've got to say. What was it, like a mini drummer or something?
Pigeons.
Oh, it's pigeons! Flatulent pigeons. Is it possible to talk about men and women, men and boys, without implicitly also really speaking about women and girls? Somehow. If we're talking about the beliefs and values and behaviours of boys, are we not talking about women and girls too, and the experience and life of women and girls? Are these separable? Or we don't live on different planets, we are together. We live together. So places at work, at school, at college, on the street, in the pub, we are together. but starting the conversation with boys and young men in a way which is rooted in a curiosity about their experience and a compassionate willingness to listen, I think opens a space in the minds of boys and young men to think about women and girls in a different way, I think. Right, quick experiment. You're a 14, 15-year-old boy. Is that good news or bad news?
Bad news.
I wouldn't, I really wouldn't swap places, I would not. It'd be nice to be still pulling, right? You know. But anyway, your teacher, your youth worker, your mentor, your whatever, wants to talk to you about a serious subject. And they really know their jargon. I want to talk to you about toxic masculinity. How are you feeling, lads? Feeling is a very important word there.
Don't care.
Is that a thought or a feeling?
Annoyed.
Right? Could be. A little bit of variety, but naming what the potentials are. So let's stick at the feelings, then you can go to thoughts. Feeling annoyed. Why would you be annoyed?
It's a negative connotation.
Of
Just being male.
yes. So the meaning. Well, what's toxic mean? Literally, what does it mean?
Poisonous.
Poison. You can't do strength-based work with poison. Can't do it. You have to put a lid on it, hide it, bury it, leave it, ignore it. Can't do interactive work. There's no hope. It's gone. So toxic. That's some chemicals in under the sink, isn't it? Masculinity in a lot of people's brains just means being a man. Yeah. There's no way of forcing people to think exactly what it means. There's codes of behaviour and things like that. So if you believe that toxic masculinity equals poison man, and you're 15, you're thinking, fuck off. Yeah? Why would you not? You think I'm poison. What else might you be feeling?
Well, I'd be bored or disinterested, like whatever.
Yeah. It could even be, I don't even know what that means, mate. What's that about? It sounds like a medical diagnosis. What is it? Greek, Latin, what is it? And I don't, how do we feel if we think somebody knows about something but you don't? Are we comfortable?
Feel stupid.
You feel stupid. How do we behave if we are made to feel stupid by someone?
Might feel ashamed.
Oh gosh, well there you go, another accelerant. Absolutely you might, yeah. Is it fair to say that it's not a great bonder, necessarily? But the teacher or the youth worker could be thinking, this is the right phrase, because I've done loads of training courses in it. And isn't it a feminist phrase? Well, no, it's not. It's from some white men in New York in 1984 and 1985. The guy, myth or poets, isn't it? That's got lost in the myths of this time. One of the guys described his dad, who was a Coast Guard admiral, as having a toxic masculinity. That was him describing his dad. Jumped the shark, boom, just in the way of the incel. Jumped the shark from being a kind of Bridget Jones diary blog from a Canadian woman into being like, it's gone. But I think some people think, if we don't use the word toxic masculinity, it's because we're frightened, or we're trying to downplay it. No, it's because we're trying to talk about the things that shit phrase has melted into an unrecognisable ball. That's my gut feeling. You're his mum or dad or carer. And he comes home. What did you do at youth club? Majid, Dave, Sean. Oh, I don't just go and see Sir, miss. What did you talk about? Oh, toxic masculinity. That's the first you've heard of it. How do you feel?
Maybe indignant, like my son, something like him.
Right. Right. So you would be inclined probably not to interrogate him. What might you do?
Get on the phone to the...
For sure. The school that you knew was up to something, was full of woke bullshit, etc. Because it just confirms a suspicion. Some parents might say, what?
Well, some people might be bang into that because
Yes.
they watched Adolescence and thought it was really good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The range of responses is really important. That there is a range of responses. And I've got a graphic of somebody who is banging into it coming up very shortly. Your son says you had to talk about toxic masculinity, you don't know anything about it. What might be a typical question to him? Would nobody say, why, what have you done? It seems to be a bulk response. Why? What have you done? Is it just you? Who's in that group? Is it just you, or is it your group? Is it you and your mates? Is it all the boys? Because they're trying to work out. What might the boy say to his mum or dad? Who's just asked him, what have you done?
Nothing.
Right, and what would you, maybe as mum or dad, then say to that boy?
No, come on, what have you done?
Yeah, I told you nothing. But you must have. How many hundreds or thousands of times do we suppose that has played out in the last few years? And it's going to play out next week. You must have. So that will corrode that relationship, which might already be quite not great already. But another type of parent, straight on the phone to the head teacher. What is this bollocks? What are you saying about my son? What are you saying about me as a parent? What are you saying about my family? What are you saying about my community? So the question then for the people doing the training is, how can we avoid all of that? Just make it not happen at all. To the greatest possible extent. And that he's really pleased. Oh great, toxic masculinity. I'm really pleased they're bringing that up with you, Graham. I do hope you learned a lot and that you listened to it. And by the way, I leave The Guardian out every day for you, but you don't read it, Graham. I'm really concerned. You know, yeah, of course these people exist, of course they do. And others might think, yeah, my interpretation of toxic masculinity is all this dangerous stuff, and it is dangerous stuff. Therefore, I'm glad that the school is talking to you about it. And I never really expect to get consulted anyway. I don't expect to have the most basic respect offered to me as a parent or a carer. And you know, I'm going to farm all that out to you anyway as a teacher. So we talk about shame as well, and how shaming doesn't work. And on an individual level, I think it's different for organisations. But on an individual level, it doesn't work. For all kinds of reasons. You go into defence and reject and attack, and you know, it raises all the wrong emotional states that they're not receptive, etc. So we talk about shame, and the question then is shaming relevant to the lives and experiences of boys and young men? What do you reckon? What would you say?
Yeah.
Is it part of their routine experience? And often on a verbal level, is that fair enough to say? So we explore, this is just one day training, trying to cram quite a lot in. I'm not aware of any other training in the UK, and I'm not just saying that, I'm not aware of it, I'm aware of people who go into schools to talk to boys and then leave. And that model, for me, leaves a lot of question marks, because there's no relationship, there's no familiarity, there's no trust, and also there's no skills left behind in place. So we talk about language and everyday phrases that are not slurs or disses, but which might leave a feeling of shame and resentment. We'd probably fill them in dead quick, couldn't we? Just in common everyday language, not slurs or disses. We've got the average ones, aren't they? It's common, would be said out that's probably been said 50 times today in Brighton. Maybe 100. Grow up there. Boys don't cry. And this last one, in fact, another kid called Billy. And Billy is 10. And Billy is in a state of immense emotional rupture because his dad has gone. Gone could be dead, prison, something, gone, left. And somebody in his family network wants to say something to him, and a phrase comes out of their mouth. What could that be? A culturally rooted phrase, but a boy whose dad has gone. The man of the house. That happens in all cultures, in all classes, up and down the country, around the world. Is that fair enough? It's true, isn't it? Right, so what we need to do now is think two things. And it's not to prioritise one or the other, it's to show that they're connected, is how does that work out for him? What's his response to that? How does he feel about it? What does he think about it?
Fear,
Fear of?
responsibility.
Right, fear of failure, fear of responsibility. A responsibility on a child who's been adultified. Just out of the box, straight out of the box. But put away your childish things. That's one thing, so he could be free. Well, if he's frightened of it, he's going to say something, isn't he? To somebody. Why not, Björn?
Well, you know, grow up hair, don't be so sensitive, man up, whatever.
Yeah, you'd be saying all that. Yeah.
Sit down.
I can't say I don't know what that means because I'm supposed to know what it means, etc., etc. So that you could like set off a pattern of behaviour for years, possibly. If he was 13, 14 and they weren't very well off, what vulnerabilities might it open to him? If he understands man as the one with the money,
Oh, yeah.
the one bringing the money in, is it possible to say it's an accelerant of vulnerability to criminality? Right. So gang affiliation, etc. It's not just about poverty. It's about that plus other things, about ideas of who you're supposed to be. So it ain't good for him in all kinds of ways. What's he saying about his mum? She can't run her own house. She's not in charge. She shouldn't be. That's not even the right way of existing. And he's been promoted straight to the top. Even if he's got a 19-year-old sister, when he's 11, I'd still say it to him. Not if you have a 19-year-old brother. But it's not about him. It's about what he represents. So I'm kind of dipping in and out of the training that I do, just as an example of work that can be done with professionals about boys and young men, in a way that is trying to avoid lecturing and catastrophising and blanket kind of statements or assumptions about them, but that allows, hopefully as a result of demonstrating empathy, allows some space to talk about the really difficult, important stuff that other people in a mad rush sometimes shrink into little phrases like toxic masculinity that mean you can never get there anyway, because they just think, right, F off, not listening, don't want to know. So I could go on forever and ever. I've got this program, it's called 12 Dialogues. What I'm going to do is zoom forward and just do one part of it.
We've got about 10, 15
10 minutes, right, okay. These are all in there. Because during the training day, people want to know about incels and I don't know if they want to know what the language means. So I do a bit of it, but I say this is, the danger with this is that we over-extrapolate it. Incel culture is a small risk. It's a risk, but it's small. Let's talk about the rest of reality. Let's talk about the fact that porn is the #1 form of sex ed for our boys. And most interpersonal relationship violence happens in a relationship. Ipso facto, that's not incels. You know, like, let's keep this real. Let's keep perspective on this, because I think there's something sexy about incels that distracts people from what is obviously happening right in front of their eyes. So I try and feed it a bit, but keep a lid on it as well. And I offer them starts and this, that, and the other. Yeah, so you really have to choke ones. I think that's all I mentioned earlier on this morning. So I'm going to go straight to this. It's an activity that I started doing with some teenage boys about 8-9 years ago. And it was a way of trying to get into the space of having a conversation of let's try and work out what we've learned about being men. That was it. Like, and how can we do that in a way that is feels like it's of interest to people and that it's doable and it's possible and it's kind of interesting and I might have something that I can get out of it. So it was just this idea of acknowledging the absorption of an incredible amount of kind of social stereotyping, cultural stereotyping about boys and men, about what it means to be a man, across cultures, across classes, etc. and all the different ways and different kinds of input into the minds of sponges of boys and young men. And everything that comes up, the question is to the lads, where do we learn, who do we learn from about how to be a man, where's it come from? You know, they tend to come up with these kinds of answers. Family, school, religion, toys, books, fairy tales, adverts. And it'll look slightly different in different demographics, but largely that's the kind of spread. And the fact that they all bounce off each other and reinforce each other as well and pick up threads and go through life. So the gist is, right, so we've recognised together, guys, that an awful lot of people have had an awful lot of input, and still are, into our understanding of what it means to be a man. The man rules, simply said. And that's not accusing anybody of anything, it's just an acknowledgement of basic reality. And that in a parallel space, our sisters, metaphorical or literal, are going through the same process but with different content, different rules, different regulations, different expectations, but that they relate to each other. And we're here learning the man rules, but we're also learning the woman rules, so we know how to judge you as women. And vice versa, you could say, that's how it works. Right, so the activity then, which I've done many times with teenage boys and young men, and in fact with adult men too, is just say, what are the rules? What are you supposed to be? And it's kind of not saying, what do I think is right or true, or what do I aspire to, is what have I been told? Roughly speaking, this is the aggregate sets of responses. Be tough, be sexually active. They don't always say straight, but when the following question is with who, they go, well, with women. And so that needs bringing out into the light, because that cues up homophobia, obviously. Be dominant, of who you can't dominate yourself. So every response is, tell me more. That's interesting. As long as it's wrong, be tough. What is tough? You know, this is just the way the conversations go. Let's think about this. Do we all agree? Etc. For those who just come in, basically, I'm just rambling through a programme that I train teachers and youth workers in around working with boys and young men, in a sense that doesn't come across as a punishment or an accusation or condemnation per se, but it's just creating space to have difficult conversations and trying to avoid jargon and stuff like that. So it's just acknowledging, what have we learned? Well, that you're supposed to be dominant, you're supposed to make decisions, you're supposed to be good at banter. Great long conversations about banter and friendship, etc. And this is what you're not supposed to do. Right, so this is a typical set of responses from a couple of thousand young men in the past 8 years, but also from lots and lots and lots of adults too. And I would thank whoever came up with this. I think, yeah, it's really interesting, and do we agree? And we all got that, yeah, we're all familiar with that. Whether we believe it or not, it's not the question. It's like, what have we been told? Because if these are rules that we're conscious of, they're things that we have to respond to. We have to find our way through. And sometimes that might be that we fully embrace it, or that we pick and choose and we code switch depending on who we're with and how safe we might feel to do certain things. But I'll tell you what, I'll end on this one thought experiment. Back down. None of us ever, going forward, are ever going to back down, negotiate, compromise, ever again in life. Right. Is there an elevated chance that within 12 months, one or more of us might be dead? That's interesting. How would that come to pass? And we can explore it in a dialogue, because that's quite a stark thought, isn't it? This is a really recurring, powerful set of expectations on boys and men. One of them is that. Okay, let's run with it. Let's do it. Then what? That's the dialogue in the room. That is the conversation. Where would that take us? Yeah, you'd be dead. How? How would that happen? It could be in a fight, it could be driving, it could be whatever, drinking, taking drugs, whatever it might be. Right, is there a chance then that if we were in a relationship now, we wouldn't be in it in 12 months' time? If we took that rule on board, that I will never back down. So a chance that our current relationship may have expired. What if it hadn't? What then? What would that mean? So, if you want to find out more, drop us an email, have a look at the website. Basically, I train people who work with boys to have interesting conversations about the social processes that are trying to win them over into misogynistic thinking. But it is deeply connected to male-on-male relationships too, and there's a strong element of investigation around friendship. We were talking earlier about healthy relationship education and stuff. What I think we do wrong in this country is we don't talk about friendships. If you cannot have a good friendship or recognise one or be part of one, you cannot be in a healthy, intimate relationship. I would say more times than not. But we just don't talk about it at all. And one of the reasons that boys sometimes might find it difficult to talk about friendship is because these have already kicked in and it's deemed effeminate to talk about friendship. I've had boys say to me, even the word friend is gay. Because I say, let's talk about friendship, friend. You know, I think in betweeners didn't help, maybe, I don't know. And lads have said stuff like, only posh people say friend. And you're just thinking, fucking hell, that's amazing, man. I'm glad you told me that, but you really blown my mind. Only posh people say friend. But I get it. So well, what do you call the people you spend time with who is not your family? Oh, it'd be mates, your brethren, your brothers, your spar, whatever. Right, let's talk about them then. So whatever your language is, and whatever your postcode is, and whatever the place that this is happening is, let's talk about that place. Not some kind of abstract notions around toxic masculinity and the patriarchy. Unless their intellectual curiosity at that point demands that we do talk about it, and that's brilliant as well. But it's not introducing these kind of notions. It's trying to meet them where they are and find out how these sets of expectations are settling on them. I'll be one more minute, Bjorn, is that okay, Bjorn? Yeah. 1 minute. So basically it's a 5-part dialogue. It opens at, what have we been told, lads? What have we been told? That and that and that. Okay. What's in it for us? Why would we do it? Well, that and that. That's the payoff, isn't it? It's quite something, especially if you're an adolescent. Feels great. Looks good, you get respected, people know who you are, you get money, you get sex. You know, which bit are you not getting, sir? This is potentially what one might get. And it's not wrong, it's interesting. Right, reputation, let's talk about that more. Let's talk about safety. In what way would it make you safe? Because what we want to do is develop capacity for critical thinking and empathy. Not to correct people or to teach them about particular things. The rules, if you've got rules, what would happen with boys and young men who are not manly enough in the eyes of their peers? Well, we ask the boys and they tell us, over and over again, you get piss taken out of you, you get mocked, isolated, you might get battered, you could get killed. You might start self-harming, etc., etc. So that in itself is an interesting thing with a group of boys and young men to acknowledge that we have mutual policing processes that we're all very familiar with by a young age. To flip that, what might go wrong if we actually do embrace these morals and we go for it full on? Well, we're going to have a lot of fights, we're going to have some dodgy mates, we're going to end up abusing women and getting into criminality. Don't get the help you need. You might end up in debt because you think you have to be loaded. You might gambling, suicide, self-harm. All of these words come from the group work. It's not me telling them, it's them. By creating a space for reflection. Oh, that's interesting. That's quite a lot. So damned if you do, damned if you don't is a interesting notion. And then the crux of it, where it brings women and girls definitely into the work again. If we wanted to really police each other, boys and young men, what words do we use? Don't want to force anybody to say anything they don't want to say.
Pussy.
Right, for example. All the words are available. Familiar? Broadly familiar? seem to cut across ages and...
Same.
I mean, there are demographic variations, but broadly similar. So I would thank the boys and I'd say, thanks lads, I'm sure I really pained you coming out with all that stuff, but I appreciate you entering into the scientific spirit of investigation. Right. Are these words random?
No.
Right. That's weird. So our punishment words are not random. If they're all somehow to do with X, what is X? What connects them?
Femininity or effeminacy.
Right. Femaleness or things to do with women, femininity, and the words that the boys use will be different. You know, it's all about girls, or it's women, or it's women and gay men, or whatever. But they're lumping them together. It's historically has been the case in discourse. Right. So these are our words that are supposed to make us feel bad. What's that word we talked about that makes us feel bad, that we hate feeling? And we've had a conversation about shame before. These are our shame words. These are the words you hear before you get stabbed. The other words like dickhead, knob, wanker, we don't care about them. Is that fair enough? They don't hurt. They're not supposed to hurt in the same way. This is supposed to hurt, whether it does or not a question. Is that fair enough? Do we kind of agree? We've got consensus there. So we can say then, guys, boys in the group, that the worst things we can say to each other is you're like a woman. Therefore, the world that we were born into and puts words in our mouths, what does it think about women?
Weak.
And in fact, weak and woman is the same thing, almost. What other ways could we say it? The world that we were born into and has put words in our mouths that it wants us to use thinks women are what? Less than, inferior. What can we do with people we genuinely believe are less than and inferior? Do whatever you want, mate. It's up to you. You're the boss, you're the decider, you're the decision maker, do what you want. You can be very gallant and chivalrous if you like, or turn it on, turn it off like a switch, or just be an absolute brute all the time. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter, because they're not standards, they're not worth a cent. But if clothes is on, one young boy once said to me, "Sir, but I love my mum." I went, "Oh, mate, I do. I love my mum too. We had a bit of a moment, we all loved our mums, it was lovely." But we were sat there going, it's weird, isn't it? Because we're all saying we love our mum, but these words just don't disappear. They're still there, waiting for us to use them. So what are we going to do? What now? What are we going to do tonight? We're going to play Call of Duty or FIFA or you go out with your mate. What are we going to say? Your mate falls, he's got a bit of water in his eye. Which words are we going to use? Or are we going to change that script? Finally, Björn, sorry, finally, it's the reimagining the positive vision. You know, we were talking, I think, Melinda this morning was talking about what do we want for boys? What message do we want? That is a bit of a neglected area. We have to want more than that they are not incels, that they do not become terrorists, that they do not become wife beaters. Has to be, what the hell? Is that it? So asking boys, the question is this: what could a man or boy experience in life if he developed a way of being resilient to all them daft rules that we've talked about? And generally, over the years, they have answered in ways a bit like this. Maybe not saying authentic, but saying like, you don't have to put on an act, you don't have to put on a show, you can be yourself. You can be honest, actually say what you're thinking. You can be healthy confidence. That was a lad, 13-year-old boy from Kidderminster. I said, "Oh, Dad, tell me more." He said, "No." All right, fair enough. Healthy confidence, nice. 6 weeks later, I said, "Go on, it's the end of the group, tell us what you meant." He went, "Well, you're not a dickhead, but you don't let people be a dick to you." It's a sophisticated thought, but autonomy and boundaries, interesting. Better friendships, sometimes more friends, sometimes fewer. Tell us more. How can having fewer friends be good? And they explain that they can avoid the group force and the dynamic, and they can genuinely just spend the time with one or two, and they don't like the others anyway, that kind of stuff. Different opportunities, maybe creative, artistic, whatever it is. Maybe have friends who are girls, something radical like that. Be open, affair. Anyway, so that is, keep coming back to the positive vision. What is possible, what is desirable, what is safe for them and the women and girls around them. That's the gist of the work. But anyway, thanks.